Welcome back to the IanTheHRPro live podcast. Today is Thursday, so we're talking careers with Career Club. We're talking about resumes, cover letters, job hunts, interview prep, lateral moves, promotions, all things careers. That's what we're talking about on Thursdays. And I have to make a confession. I have basically given up on getting a job. I'm still applying for interesting jobs, but I'm concentrating more on my business. Does that mean I'm making more money? Absolutely not. It's just, I want to talk about where did I go wrong with my own career? And I'm hoping that by me talking about this sensitive topic, it'll help you avoid some of these mistakes in your own career. As always, I got my hibiscus tea infused with some gunpowder green tea. That's the strong stuff, boy. That'll wake you up in the morning. I usually have a couple cups of this in the morning, and then in the afternoon I'll just tone it down to the hibiscus tea. But let's get into where did I go wrong with my career. So I switched to human resources quite late in life. I didn't decide until I was in my late 20s that yes, HR was where I wanted to be. So I started going back to school. I went to university and got my management degree with a major in human resources and labor relations. And I got that from the University of Lethbridge. They had a campus here in Edmonton, so I was taking my classes through the Edmonton campus. It was very hard for me. I was working at a government job I didn't enjoy, but it was paying the bills, and I was able to take night classes. So that was the big thing. I was still bringing in income and doing night classes. So I worked really hard. It took me, oh my God, like 6 years to get my 4-year degree this way. And because some semesters I was not taking full-time courses, or, I started out in a certificate program at Grant MacEwan and then transferred to Lethbridge, University of Lethbridge. So it was hard times. I had to get a student loan just like anyone, despite being Indigenous. And that was because I wasn't able to take full-time, daytime classes. I had a life, had a wife, still have that same wife, still have that same life. And so things had to move forward. So I had to continue working. And it was really hard on me for those 6 years, having 2 or 3 classes per week in the evenings after working all day. I powered through, and I graduated in 2016. Got my degree, and very proud about that. In hindsight, speaking about making lots of money, the degree has not made a large difference with how much money I made. There was a couple spurts there. I got my first HR related job, but it was really more of a operations job. than just HR. And I did get an HR manager job for a short period. And that kind of came out of my HR consulting business. And then they hired me on full time. And I was like, okay. But that didn't last long. And a whole bunch of people at that company got fired and laid off. So that was late 2020, my last layoff. And I've basically had no job since then. I've just been concentrating trying to build my business. But I was in 2021, 2022, I was applying for a lot of HR advisor, HR manager roles. These are roles I absolutely knew I was qualified for. 100%. I could do these jobs. 100%. Who's this? My mom. My mom says she's so very proud of me. And she says, Nikosis, that means son in Cree, in the Sakau Cree language that my mom speaks. So she's very proud of me. Thank you, Mommy. Anyway, so I've been trying to concentrate on my career, or my business, my consulting business, and it has been one hell of a roller coaster ride. 1 month I got good money, next month I'm broke. And the saving grace is my wife. She's had her job with the same organization for 17 years. She's amazing. I can't give her enough credit. But all that, since late 2020, early 2021, I should have made a change in my job hunt, my job search, my job thoughts. At that point, I'm already in my early 40s and thinking, well, I should be doing an HR manager role. I absolutely should be doing that role. And that was where all my job applications were going out. It was like senior HR advisor or HR manager, or like these higher level jobs within the HR realm. This absolutely, I'm qualified for that, and I felt that way. I still feel that way. But when you're looking at your career development, and I've advised a few people recently who were coming back from time away from their work. They were busy being parents, or mat leave, pat leave, or they were looking after family member, or these sorts of long-term work absences, work stoppages, right? So they 5-6 years no work. And I realized I was advising them what I know as an HR professional should work for them. But I wasn't doing that myself. I was giving myself bad advice. I wasn't listening to my advice. In 2021, I should have been applying for the low-level HR jobs. I absolutely should have sucked it up and started applying for HR assistant roles. In my early 40s, applying for that entry-level HR job. I absolutely should have ate some crow, swallowed my pride. I should have shook myself into reality. Because if I could have gotten into any organization as that HR assistant, I would have had a better chance of igniting my career, advancing my career, because now I'm in that organization. they know me, they would, if I'm there doing the HR assistant job for, say, 6 months to a year, in most cases, people tend to like me. And I've had retail jobs, client-facing, where the customers just absolutely love me after a certain period of time, right? I tend to win people over. I joke a lot. I tend to be a really happy-go-lucky person when I'm at the office. I mean, I can put the foot down and be the heavy when it's time to be that HR manager, right? So I can do that. But why wasn't I taking my own advice and saying, let's go get that HR assistant job? Now in my late 40s, I'm still thinking the same thing. I'm thinking, maybe I should just start applying for HR assistant jobs, right? Like, why not? I guess it's never too late if I want to ignite that part of my career. And it would certainly be consistent money. The consulting business I've been doing for the last, I've been trying to do consulting since I graduated in 2016. It's kind of been a side thing. And it wasn't until about 2019 that I was like, okay, let's treat this more like an actual business. And it really, really hasn't grown. Either I'm just a terrible HR consultant or I'm terrible at marketing. And I wish I had of... Sorry, I had to cough. I wish I had of taken myself a lot more seriously and like really built my business. And basically over the last, since 2019, so we're looking at 5+ years, I've just been learning how to be a marketer. I'm not really doing HR work very much. I'm doing marketing. I'm marketing my business. I almost wish I'd have just got a marketing degree, right? The amount of marketing I have to do for my own business. And I've tried everything, all kinds of marketing things like that. Anyway, it's not building. It's not growing, right? So I always come back to, well, there's a nice job. Maybe I'll do that. And it's the fun jobs that I'm looking at. Maybe CEO at a nonprofit or an Indigenous organization, or program manager for something, depending on the organization. I'm a real big fan of nonprofits. I would love to get in on a nonprofit. I think I would really enjoy that. And when I should be thinking, oh, maybe I should just apply for every HR assistant job I should almost do an experiment and see if I can get into one. Because on the flip side, I have been experiencing a lot of racism when it comes to applying for jobs. It was very, very demoralizing to get an interview and then get crickets. And I'm constantly trying to figure out what is going on. Like, I know I've got the skills. I know when I interview quite well. I'm happy. Sometimes I run on sentences and things like that, or not run on sentences. I ramble sometimes. So I have this piece of paper in front of me. Like, it's on the top of the pile beside my computer. It's a constant reminder for the STAR method. Situation, task, action, result. And I'm terrible at trying to do this. So maybe I'm not so good at interviews as I thought. Or there's a whole lot of racism and they're just choosing the white people, or whatever. And I find I used to get a lot of interviews. And I think this has become because I have a German sounding last name. So I'm not some indigenous person coming in, or they don't think about it, right? So I think I get my foot in the door that way. And I know a lot of new Canadians have that same issue. There's a lot of people from different countries that they feel the need to take a Canadian name, an American name, an English name. And personally, I think that's sad that we can't use our real traditional name without being sorted out of the job applications just because someone is sitting there. Oh, I can't say their name, right? This is real. I think now I have traditionally always wanted to put my LinkedIn at the top of my resume. I may change this now. This is something where I thought it could be useful. But I think if you are Indigenous or a person of color or some sort of new Canadian, that LinkedIn link might be a bad thing. My mother says, Kisa kinhitin, Kisa ki. K makes a G, some more of a G sound. Gisagi hitin. Gisagitin. Gispin Gisagihin. I don't know. Mom, I don't know what you said in the chat. You'll have to give me the English version. Anyway, so my mom's watching now. I'm like super nervous, right? Who goes live and then their boomer mother is like watching? She's very proud of me. That's great, but now I'm nervous as heck. Anyway, let's get back to me. So I didn't take that step back, swallow my pride, and say, oh, I'm just going to get any HR related job. Because if I had gotten an HR assistant job, I think it means love you. That's what she says. I love you too, Mom. So if I had gotten to an HR assistant job, I'm confident that 6 months to a year, I probably could have moved up in that company, if there was room, to an HR advisor role. Because they would have known me, they would have known my skills and my work ethic. But I didn't give myself that opportunity to slide in there, so to speak. So I think we have a lot of people who are coming back from not working for several years, and they're hoping to just get in at the top or at the same level where they left. And personally, I think that's fine. If I had skill level at this level, I should be able to walk into that same role again, no problem. But I don't think the rest of society thinks like that. Certainly not the hiring managers. The first thing they're looking at is saying, oh, this person hasn't worked for 6 years. What's going on there? Are they a bad employee? Did they get fired? Did they quit? Do they have health problems and they're going to be late for work all the time or ask for time off? I mean, were they traveling, and are they only going to work for a short time and then quit to go traveling some more, right? Like, there's all these things, these nonsense things that hiring managers, hiring organizations, they play out in their heads. It's the same with looking at someone's resume and saying, I can't pronounce that name, so I'm going to put them in the garbage. I'm not even going to give them a chance. Or when they look at your top of resume and they're like, oh, I'm going to go to that link, and I see their picture on LinkedIn. Now, I advise people, there's a lot of new Canadians from Eastern Asia countries, China, Taiwan, Japan, these areas. They proudly present, I think India might do this too, maybe some South Asians, but they proudly put their photo on their resume. And it's usually like a really office professional looking photo, and something that you might see on a photo ID or something like that. And I've advised lots of those people from who they're trying to apply for jobs in Canada, and I've advised them, take the photo off. But then at the same time, I was saying, put your LinkedIn up. And I wasn't even thinking, but yeah, they can go look at your photo there. So they can see you're a person of color, or maybe you're going to have issues speaking English, or, there's all these biases that come into play. So I think getting in an organization wherever you can to prove to people that you can do the job is really important. I know I've had issues with hiring. I see the person, they've got the skills, and I'm like, yeah, let's hire that person. But my manager has come in and said, no, they vetoed that person. Whatever bias they might have, I'm like, well, they got this. And I've seen other situations where people have basically bullied their way into positions because they bypass the hiring manager and go to their boss or whatever. And I'm just thinking, well, that's a giant red flag. You had somebody skip over the process to get hired in the organization. That's a red flag by itself. I mean, if HR looks at your resume, or the recruiter or the hiring manager looks at your resume and says, this person doesn't have the skills, that's one thing, right? But if they're looking at it and say, oh, this person might be Indian, and they'll have a really strong Indian accent, so I won't be able to understand them, or they'll have a really hard name, and I'm going to have trouble talking to them and communicating with them. I mean, if someone can come in and get the job done, these sorts of things are completely non-issues. Who cares? Take the time and learn how to say someone's name. This is being human. This is a big green flag. If you're someone with a difficult name, and the person you meet or the person you're working for says, I'm having difficulty saying your name. I want to learn how to say your name properly. That is a big green flag. It's like, yeah, this person cares. So then if you find someone like that, try to stay with their organization. But if you are trying to come back from no work, or changing careers, I would say suck it up and go for that low-level job. And I feel like in my industry, in the HR industry right now, I feel like that's what everyone is doing. You'd have people like me with a degree and some experience and some management experience applying for that absolute low-level job. And then you have people with more education with me, someone that has their full designation and or someone who has a master's degree applying for the jobs that I'm applying for. Right? So obviously, if you're looking at the two resumes, me with a degree and 10 years HR experience and 20 years management experience through my volunteering, with someone, and I don't have my full designation. I'm just a CPHR candidate. But on the other hand, if you have someone with a master's, full CPHR, and even with the same 10 years experience in HR, you're going to choose that person with the higher education. That's just the way things work, right? I would have to be very impressive to beat out someone with a master's. There would have to be something terribly wrong with them. They interviewed extremely badly or something like that in order for me to beat out that person. So think about your own industry. If you're on that job search right now, what's the real tactic you should be going for? What's the real job you should be applying for? What's going to get your foot in the door? And go for that. Because even if that lower ranking job, that lower paid job is not what you're looking for, you might be saying, oh, in order for me to live my life, I need this amount of money, so I'm going for a job at this level. That's going to be a harder game than going for that lower class level, that entry level position. It's going to be a harder game. But if you got your foot in the door, once you're in the internal game, you may just get promoted. They may not even put out a job ad. They may say, oh, Ian, you've been here for 6 months. You've proven you're a skilled HR person. Let's just move you into an HR advisor role, right? Great. Now, private industry or non-union industry, they can do that easy. If you're in a union or if you're in government or something like that, they have to go through the motions of that job process. But they can still have favorites, right? And if you're the favorite, you're going to get it. So be the favorite. Sorry, choking on my allergies. That's the end of my hibiscus and gunpowder green tea. You always got to swish your mouth out after you're having your hibiscus tea because it can weaken your enamel. Yep. So, what's your tactic? What's your job tactic? Go ahead, ask me questions in the comments. I am always looking for questions. Ask your questions. Or if you want to be on the show and you want to argue with me, as long as you're not swearing too much, it should be okay. I can send you the link. I had my sister on the show yesterday. I think it was yesterday. Yeah, it was yesterday's show. I had my sister on the show. She was like, oh, okay. Yesterday, Wednesday, we were talking about Indigenous Relations, No, that's Tuesday. On Wednesdays, we were talking about gigs and side gigs. So that means she was on the show on Tuesday. Anyway, my sister was on the show, and I just sent her the little link, and she was able to connect. So that's right on. I don't know if you have to download the program I use, restream.io, if I invite you to be a guest on the podcast. I don't know. So, there's something I can share with you. We're talking about careers, jobs. Oh, if you want to use AI to help you to advance your career, this book might be useful to you. It's called Career Coach GPT. Use AI to advance your career. I'm not sure if that's the current price on Amazon, but if you scan this QR code and go check out Amazon, it was $13.17 Canadian when I created that QR code. This was probably 2-3 weeks ago. Was there just something moving around over here? We've got cats, so sometimes there's cats' hair. Although, was that light on the back window? Freaky! Twilight Zone. Might have been the ghost that lives in this room. Who knows? So a big thing, I think last week I kind of walked you through using ChatGPT. I used my own resume and I asked it to improve my resume. I asked it to make it easier to read, like a grade 7 reading level. And I asked it to make a cover letter based on a job ad we found. So I'm just copying and pasting the whole job ad in, and I say, make me a cover letter. Sometimes when I look at a certain job, I will, because my ChatGPT knows me, it knows my resume, it knows all the jobs I've applied for in the last 2 years or whatever, right, since I've been using ChatGPT. And so I can put in a job ad and say, and ask it, am I qualified for this job? Is there anything I'm missing from my resume? And it'll tell me, it'll do this analysis and say, yeah, you're missing this or that. If you have that experience, let's add them to your resume, right? So it's really neat. It's really spooky. Now, ChatGPT does like to embellish a little bit. So anything you pull out of it, like a cover letter or something like that, certainly do review. And if there's certain phrasing that you're not comfortable with, change it or just take it out. You always got to edit it, because when you get into that job interview, you will be speaking to this cover letter that you've generated. So you want to make sure that it's using the language you use. Make sure you're comfortable with what it says. I'd done one, and I think even during the example, it was a couple things it came up with. Absolutely, I got the skill, and that's who I am. But the way it said it, it made me feel uncomfortable. So I was like, yeah, if I was to send out that cover letter, I would take out that line and I would change another one or something like that, right? Because I have to feel comfortable with that. And it's just not worth it to fudge the numbers, to fudge the data on your, fudge the experience on your cover letter or your resume. It's just not worth it, because if you get that job interview, you have to be speaking to these things and using that type of language. So if you're not comfortable, don't do it. But if you're in that time of your life where you absolutely need to get a job as soon as possible, then you need to speed up the process for applying. If you're searching for a certain career or a certain position, create a resume on that career or that position and use that same resume for all the related jobs. But every job, you should write a new cover letter. And this takes time. We all know this takes time. It makes us just not want to send in a cover letter. But then some of these jobs say you must have a cover letter and you must fully explain XYZ in your cover letter, right? So you got to find ways to make cover letters faster. And you don't want to be using the same cover letter because it doesn't speak properly to the role you're applying to. And how do you make 10, 20 cover letters in a day? That is exhausting. 10 cover letters, let alone 20. 10 cover letters is a lot of time. And it is hard work. It is exhausting. So imagine cutting your cover letter creation time by a 10th. You know, if it takes you, 10 minutes to write a cover letter, it is now taking you a minute to write the cover letter. If it's taking you a full hour to do a proper cover letter, then it's now taking you, I don't even know what 10th is of that. Not quite 6 minutes, like 5 minutes or less or something like that, right? Like, it is a big time saver, especially if you are really pumping out job applications. And sometimes that's what we got to do. We got to put out a lot of job applications. I was doing a lot of this in 2019 and 2020 and 2021. I was trying to make sure I applied for multiple jobs every day, and I was taking weekends off. That was probably foolish. And of course, my tactic, I feel, was wrong. The wrong tactic, man. I should have been applying for them low-level jobs just to get my foot in the door. And I feel like as a Gen Xer, as a Zennial, right? Zennial is 77 to 83 or something like that. So I'm right in that Zennial window. I'm getting to be an older person now. So now I'm dealing with ageism, whereas 5-10 years ago, I wasn't really dealing with that, at least not in my mind. It wasn't something that was clicking. So I think it's kind of a bit of a trick. If it says I graduated in 2016 with my degree, do people automatically think I'm in somewhere in my mid-20s at that time? So right now they're probably thinking, oh, I'm in my 30s or early 30s. So that might be an advantage to me, I thought. Aside from some of the gray hair, I don't think I look that old, but that's all personal perception, right? It's got nothing to do with me. How do I start dealing with this now that I'm older? And I'm in that strange place where I do have a lot of board and management experience from when I was volunteering from 2000 to now. I volunteered on a lot of boards, so I can run meetings, I can make agendas, I managed employees in those different positions. I've got 20 years of management experience, at least. And this, I don't know, maybe I should be just trying to find a manager role, assistant manager role or something. It could be in any industry. It doesn't have to be an HR job, right? Because when you look at my HR career, I've been certified I've had my degree since 2016, so almost 10 years now. And I have been doing HR work for that long, but someone who's got 20 years experience in HR, they beat me out easy. So where do I put myself? I'm just in this weird. Ooh, hope you guys can't hear that vehicle gunning it out on the road. Anyway, I'm in that weird place in my career where I'm not quite experienced enough in HR to say I'm gonna, because you have these consultants and they're usually in their 50s and 60s and maybe their 70s, right? They've had a full career. They've worked in multiple locations in that career. They've got 30, 40 years experience, and now they're this senior HR person, and they're the type of person that I'd just kill to. No, I wouldn't kill them. I mean, I would enjoy sitting down with them and picking their brain, right? I'm not there yet. Despite me physically getting close to that age, right? Another 5 years, I'm going to be in that group. But my career, my experience in HR is not as seasoned at this point. Even though I know all this stuff, and I lean on my management experience a lot, and I'm trying to do something with this. It's like I'm missing that one ingredient. I'm missing the eye of Newt to make my potion perfect. And I think it was this early career progression that I didn't get. I didn't have. I didn't get my degree in my early 20s and then start an HR assistant job in my 20s. And then by the time I was 30, I would have got an HR advisor role. And mid-30s, I probably would have been in, a senior or even an HR manager role. And now in my 40s, I should be like director of HR or vice president of HR in some organization, right? That's where I should be right now, but I'm not. I've kind of skipped over that whole career and said, I'm an HR consultant. So, what do you think? If you're watching this after the show, make a comment. Have I just shot myself in my foot career-wise? Or did I do the right thing trying to accelerate my career into something that I know I can do, but I'm not being effective? I'm not making the big money. I'm always so nervous. I guess I do have the imposter syndrome. Sometimes I think about my hourly rate and what I charge for my projects, and then those people that I covet, the 50, 60-year-olds with the 40-year career, I'm just like, I just can't charge the same amount that they do. And I hear about these guys who are charging $3,000 to $6,000 for a full day workshop. They're training people and things like that. And I'm just like, I just don't have the balls to to be charging that. I really feel like there's that imposter syndrome, but I have management skills and Indigenous lived experience that is absolutely worth that much money if I was doing a full day. And I think about when I facilitate with my wife we do the KAIROS Blanket Exercise. It's a 500-year history lesson of Indigenous people and colonization of Canada. And we do basically a half day. It goes anywhere from 2 to 4 hours, depending on the size of the group. And I realized that what I'm charging for that event, but this is 2 of us, so maybe it's not as high. If I was doing a full day, the amount would be comparable to one of these honored consultants that I covet, right? It is comparable. Now imagine if I was able to turn this into a full day event. I would do the KAIROS Blanket Exercise maybe in the morning, and then in the afternoon I would do allyship and get more into the weeds on truth and reconciliation, the 94 calls to action, or the UN DRIP, the United Nations Declaration. DRIP, oh my God, I can never remember. Anyway, it's for the world indigenous people. They've set out and said this is what all nations should be doing to protect their indigenous people. And Canada has an act that says just that. Like, it's protected in Canada. It took a few years to get it, but these sorts of things, I could get into the weeds and really talk more about this stuff. And I think I could come up with a $3,000 or $4,000 full day event, and my wife would only have to be there for half of it. Or I am trying to hire somebody to do some training to be a co-facilitator for the KAIROS Blanket Exercise. And it, basically you'd come out to, I don't know, just a handful of events a year. So there's certainly not a full-time job or anything like that, but I can, when I'm having the events, I can pay to have that person there. And then that would free up my wife so she doesn't have to keep taking vacation days off, right, from work. And so I could do that in the morning and then get into the weeds in the afternoon. I just need to come up with a few better activities that people can do. It's totally viable. But that's the Indigenous side of things. And I feel like that Indigenous work comes to me quite easy because KAIROS themselves, KAIROS Canada, are sending referrals to me. So you say, I want a blanket exercise. It takes you in the search, and the first place you go is the KAIROS website, and they say, would you like the book? And you email them, and then they send you an email and say, yeah, Ian's in your area, so he can help you with that, right? So there's these referrals coming in. I almost feel like if I double down on that Indigenous Relations side of my business, I could make a full living out of it. But I'm nervous about that too. Because I don't want to teach culture. I am not a knowledge keeper. I am not an elder by any means. I don't know the culture. I think about my mother. I consider her an elder for her beadwork and moccasin making and her knowledge of the language. And, so that's important. But when I think about me, I'm not there, right? I'm absolutely not in some place where another elder or community member can come up and say, no, you're an elder for that. right? That's not where I'm at. So a lot of times there's the organizations I work with, they try to do protocol. They try to give me the tobacco and the gifts and things like that. And I'm like, no, 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 no. No, I'm not that person. Not yet. But I don't feel I need protocol at this point for the things I teach, because I'm not teaching culture. I'm teaching history. I'm a history teacher. But I'm not teaching specific technologies or stories, the oral traditions, I'm not teaching the language, these sorts of things. I'm not doing a ceremony. A lot of times people call it the KAIROS Blanket ceremony, and I'm like, it's not a ceremony. It is just an exercise. There's nothing ceremonial about it. It's certainly somber and powerful, but it's not a ceremony. So I talk about all this, and this is me as an Indigenous person, but me as a person with a career. I think HR. It's taken me a long time to come around to HR as me, my identity. IanTheHRPro. That's what this podcast is all about. It's me, the HR pro. So I want to talk about HR. I love talking about HR. I love helping small businesses, owners with their HR problems, right? This is me. This is what I love. It's taken me a long time to get there. When I was in high school, actually junior high, I wanted to be a computer technician. And I was gearing myself for that career as I went into high school. And then, like a month into grade 10, when I wanted physics as my science, because I felt that would be better for my computer degree. So, but for some reason, the school didn't put me in the physics class. So I had to fight to get my schedule changed so I could be into physics. And so I had biology and physics, but I know from previous grade 9, whatnot, I hated chemistry. Absolutely hated chemistry. I couldn't do the chemical equations. Sorry. So I hated chemistry, so I didn't want to be in chemistry at all. But I enjoyed biology, because biology was basically memorization, and I'm good at memorizing stuff. But I wanted physics because I was also interested in space and astronomy and things like that. So I wanted the physics. Physics was important. So I fought to get into physics. And then within a month, everyone else quit physics. There was at least 6 other people in that physics class. Remember, this is a small town. There was I don't know, maybe 100 students in 10, 11, and 12, right? Like, it was a fairly small school. And so everybody quit physics. They kept physics for me. I finished physics, got my physics 10, and I was happy and thinking, okay, grade 11, I'm going to get my physics 20 and my biology 20. Get me 2 sciences, right? The next year, they did not offer physics because I was the only physics student. So it strangely derailed my entire life because my school no longer offered physics. I couldn't get to physics 20. And the curriculum was also changing here in Alberta, so they started having the applied sciences and the just science 10 or whatever, right? Like, so these kind of were coming in. I don't know what it's at right now, but I still wanted my physics 20. I got my biology 20 that year. And that was it. I didn't get another science in high school. And I'm just like, whatever. But suddenly I was not qualified to apply for my computer degree because I didn't have a 30 level science. I had science 20 and physics 10. I didn't have the 30 level science. And I was just like, oh my God. And I was so upset. And I got tired of cleaning viruses out of people's computer. Nobody purchased virus scanners back in the late 90s. So all I was doing was just scanning people's stupid computer for viruses. 35,000 viruses on one computer. It was insane. I got bored of it. And I was kind of like, no, maybe not computers. But I ended up starting my own business. And that was 18 months of hell, but a really great learning process. And so I knew at that young age, 19, 20, that I enjoyed business. I knew I did, but I just needed the right business. And then after a few years after high school, I got interested in volunteering and politics and things like that. So in the mid 2000s, I was like, yeah, okay, I'm going back to school for my political science degree. And I'm like, yeah, that's what I'm going for. So I enrolled in university classes in my town, and they had a small campus from the Northern Lakes College at the time, and so I started back to school. But of course, I couldn't enroll directly into a university program without my 30 level science. I needed some 30 level science. So I took my biology 30. That's the only one I had to do. And it was enough to get me, because it wasn't a science or technical degree I was going for, I was able to use that science, that biology 30. The thing was, what I learned in biology 30 and in biology 20 seemed almost exactly the same. I even asked the instructor, did the curriculum change? Because I feel like I learned all this. I had a ridiculously high mark in my biology 30 class, my upgrading. So I was starting to take some university classes at the same time. I was finishing off my biology 30. I think it was like a 97 or something like that. Like, it was ridiculous. And to me, biology was just straight up memorization. I just had to remember everything. It was easy. There wasn't trying, like a math class, like stats. I hate stats. In stats, you have to memorize the formulas and know how to run them. And that was problems I had from chemistry. But there was none of that in biology. It was just straight memorization. There was no trying to use a formula or a tool to try to manipulate the numbers and come out with a result. Biology was straight just remember the cell and all the organelles and the mitochondria, and like I had it all memorized. It was easy. It was so easy. And I just blown away. I mean, that's probably the best mark I ever had was at my biology 30 when I was doing the upgrading to get into the degree program. And then I decided that wasn't for me. So I didn't finish my degree in the mid-2000s. That probably would have been a good time to get my degree. I should have just forced it, but I mean, I regret things, but I also don't regret things, because otherwise, if my life had all changed, if I had made all, the dumb choices I made in my 20s, if I hadn't have made those dumb choices, I wouldn't have met my wife. I wouldn't be happily married. I wouldn't, like it's hard for me to say, I just totally trampled my career and didn't do what I was supposed to do. But the shining light is, I guess I was supposed to make all those stupid mistakes with my career, stupid mistakes with family and friends, whatever stupid mistakes I make, I gotta claim them, and I gotta say, okay, if I hadn't have done all that, I wouldn't be the man I am now, and I wouldn't have this amazing wife, right? So there's some regret in there, yes, but it's not. I'm dealing with the fact that I had to make those choices in my life in order for me to be where I am now, with my personal life. So I didn't get that poli-sci degree, and it wasn't until I was with my wife that my life, my career, the jobs I had, the bad bosses I had through my 20s, that I said, HR is the place I want to be, right? Because I've just had so many bad experiences with managers and things like that. And I'm always like, why is that? Why are managers so bad? Why is HR not doing more or whatever, right? And I was like, okay, I'm going to go into HR. And that's when I started taking night classes. And it was a struggle. And I don't know where this story was coming from. So I went for my HR certificate first from Grant McEwen. I got that 2-year HR certificate. I think it took me 3 years. Was it? Yeah, I think it took me 3 years. At that point, so we're looking at about 2012, 2013. That's when I should have started applying for HR assistant roles. Right? I had that basic HR knowledge. So the HR certificate I got would have been like, if I already had some sort of degree, if I had have got my computer science degree or my poli-sci degree, this HR certificate would have made me more viable in HR sooner by 3 to 5 years, right? In the current timeline. So I would have been able to switch over. But having a degree in either one of those other places, the science degree or the poli-science degree, either one of those would have changed my career also. I think. But if I had either one of those and got the certificate, I would have been able to get into an HR stream easy, HR job easy. But as soon as I got that HR certificate, I should have started applying for HR assistant roles. Should have applied for everyone that I could think of. And left that government job that I was not enjoying. I was trying to move into an HR role within the government, but I was just so demoralized with the work environment that I didn't have the energy. I really wanted to leave that job and move into something where I felt valued and not just watched. So that would have been the time for me to start applying for HR assistant jobs. I moved from Grant MacEwan getting the certificate to, oh, that's the certificate right behind me. That's the Grant MacEwan symbol, and there's my degree right there. It's also up on the wall there. These are my office versions. I've scanned them and I put them in my office when I have a job. So I should have got into an HR job, any HR job at that point, while I was still going after my degree here. And it took me another 3 years to finish off my degree, even with the transfer of my classes, because I did do a few university classes, like my sociology I did in the mid 2000s when I was going for my poli-sci. So all that was brought over. So there was a little bit I was able to bring over, but not a lot. And when I left Grant MacEwan to move to University of Lethbridge, then all my HR classes were considered like second, third, fourth year classes. So I had to redo all the basic university classes at that point. So I did 2 years of just basic general university classes before I even got into any of the juicy HR classes. And there were some I didn't have to do because there was a lot that came over from Grant MacEwan. So that was, but at this point, I should have already been in HR. I should have already had an HR assistant job. And as soon as I got that degree, I should have started applying for the HR advisor roles while still being in the HR assistant roles. Possibly during that time, I might have been able to get into an HR role because I was taking my HR degree. So there could have been a career path there that wasn't on my radar at the time. So, and then I should have been able to get my full designation. At that time, HR assistant jobs did give you experience towards your designation. Now it doesn't. You have to have an actual HR advisor role where you're doing kind of higher level HR things. And I could have got that by like 2019, right? And so from 2020 to now, I could have been advancing through an organization or doing lateral moves to a different HR job in a different organization. And right now, I could be a senior HR advisor or an HR manager. Like, I could be there. I wouldn't quite be at the director of HR or VP of HR or something like that. I wouldn't quite be there. But I think I would be certainly in a good position. And God, I don't know if there's regret in me right now, but this realization that I should have sucked it up, ate the crow, done, just, it doesn't matter that I'm older. I should have just did that starting career stuff. And now I feel like I'm just going to go find the HR assistant jobs and just apply for them all. Just almost like almost like a test to see if they hire me, to see if I can get into an interview, to see if they say, oh, you're too experienced for this role, right? Or, I'd love to hear that, but nobody wants to hear that. Hire me, I'll do the job, and then when you think I'm ready to move to another job, I will take responsibility of hiring your new HR assistant, right? Or training your new HR assistant. And I love training people. So I could train up an HR assistant like that. It was fun when I was an HR manager for a short time, 6 months. I had an HR assistant, but I wanted to train her into a recruitment role, because then she could do all the recruiting side of my work, so I didn't have to do that. She wouldn't be just doing paperwork and filing and stuff, right? Like, she would be moving into a better career situation. And I mean, that's 6 months. I didn't have enough time to mold her into a proper recruitment role. So I enjoy training people to get them trained up in the jobs. As long as it's HR related, I can train anybody to do anything, really. Ramble. This has probably been a terrible podcast. If you're still listening to this, you're either just my mom or my sister, or even my best friends wouldn't even watch this crap, right? Like, but figure out that tactic. If you're coming back to the job force and you haven't been working for a while, what's the real tactic? What's that level that's really going to get you in there? That entry level job that just gets you in the organization. Aim for that. And then once you're working again, then you can either advance in that job or start applying for the higher level job that you feel you deserve or you're qualified for, right? But at the same time, then you can say, yes, I'm currently working at this job. It's always easier to get a job when you have a job. So suck it up, eat the crow, swallow your pride, take that low-level job. Aim low, plan for high, basically. Put your best foot forward, go for that entry-level job. And I think it might be a better option for a lot of people. It's hard. I was thinking about that show. I can't remember the name of it. Robert De Niro and that actress, what's her name? I've totally forgotten her name. Anyway, she's got this company and she's hiring people and her company's growing fast. And Anne Hathaway. And she's hiring some new interns. And one of the interns is Robert De Niro. Is it called The Intern? I don't know. Anyway, she hires Robert De Niro. And the funny thing is, he had worked 40 years in that same building for a different company that was in this old factory building. So now he's coming back as a senior in like this assistant intern role. And it's a neat movie. It's a neat watch. But that's what I'm thinking of myself now. I'm starting to think. So I feel like I need to become an expert at advising older people and to get into jobs, to get back into the workforce from a break from work, right? Those sorts of situations. Because I have had people ask me, how do I get back to work? And it's always so hard for us to put in your resume that it was like, I was jobless for 6 years raising my family. I mean, raising a family is hard. Looking after a family member, if they're elderly or whatever, that's hard stuff. Why don't we value that as employers? Why don't we say, 6 years raising your kids? Now they're all in school. Great. You managed to succeed as a parent. Sorry, my neighbor's just moving stuff around in the yard. And I saw it pop up on the window and I wasn't sure what was happening. You've succeeded at this amazing life phase. You had and raised children. This is amazing. Why aren't we honoring this and saying, ooh, that's hard work. Congratulations. Here's a job. I mean, if you want a hard worker, I think you want a mom from the 80s and 90s, right? Like, amazing, hard workers. I think about my mom. Always cleaning the house, always looking after us, always cooking when family comes over for sure. Her brothers would show up and she would cook these amazing meals. And one Christmas, she made everything sloppy. And our Christmas dinner, she purposely turned it into a food fight. And it was just amazing times to be a kid with her. And in my mind, did it make up for all the time she had to spend at work? I believe sometimes she had more than one job. And she also needed her time, her me time, right? So, yeah, kids, they just want their parents to be there. But at the same time, we know that it's difficult. Well, as an adult, I know it's all difficult. And I understand when a parent would need their private time, right? So as I get older, I start understanding these things a lot better. But when my mom was looking after her kids, she was 15, 20 years younger than I am right now. So young adults just working their asses off in the 80s and the 90s to raise families. I mean, what's wrong with pulling in an older person who knows how to do hard work? I feel like you can train just about anyone on tasks, right? You can train someone in a computer program. Even our older Gen X and our boomer parents, we can still teach them how to use stuff, programs, systems, processes. It's all teachable. They were hard goddamn workers, right? They know hard work. So why wouldn't we honor them and say, yeah, come work for us? I mean, we just take a little additional training to get them going, but they would work. It's that generation where if they're working for a good organization or even a bad organization, they're willing to put in the extra time, the free overtime, which the Zennials and Millennials and the younger generations are like, work-life balance, right? And that's all valid too. But wouldn't you want someone who's really grateful and a hard worker? Go ahead, hire that older person. Now, I'm saying this just because I'm becoming an older person. So I need to convince everybody in the world that in the next 5 to 10 years, they need to look at me and say, oh, you're a hardworking older person, so let's come work for you. Or you come work for us. Oh my. So that was kind of a roundabout long conversation. I don't know if I gave you any value today. Put in the comments, write value if you felt like you came up with something. Just kind of hearing my stupid life story. And next week I'll try to get something a little more tangible to help us. Maybe I'll start to experiment of applying for HR assistant jobs at my age in my career. See if I catch something. Yeah. I mean, I hate you say HR assistant and then they gotta cover phones. I hate covering phones. I even hate covering reception. But that's my introvert side of me. I don't like dealing with people. Although I've been very successful in the retail jobs I've done. I mean, I just had to suck it up. I knew I had to deal with people. So I tend to be fine, I guess. I don't want to say I got a gift for gab, but once I get a little comfortable or I'm put into the situation, I can deal with people. I dread it beforehand. I always used to say I hate one-on-ones, meeting people one-on-one, but I can handle being put in front of a room of 500 to 1,000 people and talking to them. But as soon as I walk off the stage, I'm freaked out. I don't want to talk to anyone one-on-one. It scares me. Right? Why the heck am I in HR? Because in actuality, I care about people. And I care about organizations and businesses. I want to see all the small business owners out there grow and excel. There's 150,000 plus small businesses in Alberta alone. How many of them are failing? How many of them are stagnating? Right? 150,000 small businesses in Alberta employ 75% of all working age adults in Alberta. So 75% of all working Albertans work for a small business. The rest of the Albertans work for big businesses or government. Right? These are big employers. But there's very few governments. Right? There's the provincial government, and then there's all our municipal governments across the province, towns, and the counties and municipal districts and stuff like that, right? That's the municipal governments. And you include the big businesses in there, the big giant oil companies we have here in Alberta. That's only 25% of the people working in government and big business. That's a small percentage. So when you think of 75% of all working Albertans work for a small business. I want to support small businesses. The power of the small business in Alberta is completely underrated. If you want to support 75% of your workers right now, today, you do something to support small businesses in some way, shape, or form, because they are the major employers. So that's why, what's classed as a small business? I think in Alberta, what's classed as a small business is any organization that has less than 99 employees. I think there's also a money limit, like they make less than 5 million a year in revenue or something like that, right? So we can, on the HR side of things, I consider a small business to be any business with 99 or less employees. You shouldn't even hire an HR person like me full-time until you have about 75 employees, or your organization can generate enough revenue that you can cover the overhead of having an HR person. You just got to make sure that HR person is there for the right reasons to really support your organization. So, but my consulting business says less than 99 employees and no permanent HR person within your organization. So we're looking at 10 to 50 employees is kind of where I like to give my HR advice. If you're that type of organization, talk to me. We can do simple monthly advice or whatever. It doesn't have to be something big, right? A lot of times HR managers or the owner who's doing the HR work just need some advice, and they can be successful with it, their HR. Too often in organizations, the owners, the managers, they're experts in what they do. They're not experts in how to manage people. So that's where we have this disconnect. For the best person who does a certain task, they become the manager, but they got absolutely no management experience. They're an expert in what they do, but they're not an expert in managing anyone that does what they do, right? So I think that's where we see a lot of organizations where people complain about the organization because they don't know why their managers are a bunch of a-holes, and why they haven't had a raise in 6 years. And, there's just, it's because we're just lacking management skills. And that's where good HR can come in and help train your managers to become better managers, to become better leaders. So that's also why I support people with their careers, because I want to see them excel, and I want to see them get their dream job. But I think right now you're going to get your dream job by doing something else, that entry-level job, and just work your butt off to get to that dream job. And remember, it doesn't have to be with the same organization. Entry-level here, mid-career here, then you might come back to the same organization and finish off your career in a high-level job, right? I've seen people move from one job, get some experience over here, and then they came back to the same organization, but now they're the boss, right? There's that lateral moves, that lateral experience that's really important. So don't shy away. If you got a big organization and you're like, I want to do a lateral move, but it's a demotion at that new role. Well, if it's changing your career direction into the way you want to go, do it. Just learn to budget, save some money, don't overspend, don't become house poor, right? You got to do the things to make sure your life works correctly. It's proper budgeting. That's dealing with annoying roommates, whatever you got to do, right? If you want to change your career direction, your trajectory that you're going in right now, you've got to shake things up a little bit. It is so hard for us to leave an organization, even if we hate it, even if we think it's the most vile place on the planet to work. It is hard for us to leave there because we know the security, the devil right? We know the security of being in that job. You know that you're probably not going to get fired as long as you keep to a same level. So you've got, this is secure for you. It's safety. But if it's killing your soul to go into that organization every day to work, you need to get out of there. You need to get creative and find a way. The first thing is lower your expenses as much as possible. During this time, you might be all your entertainment, anything that gives you joy in life, you're going to have to cut that out for a little while. 6 months to a year, whatever. Cut it down while you're still working at this devil of a job. Cut your expenses. Find ways to make more money, side hustle. If you own a house, get that annoying roommate. If you got a 2-bedroom apartment you're renting, get that annoying roommate to help you. Find some way, get creative on how to lower your expenses so you can put as much money into your savings as possible. And then when you feel secure with the savings, with a little nest egg, then you can go full bore on applying for that career change job. But even before that, you can start applying, right? Just start applying. But you know there's going to be a salary change, there's going to be risk. So lower your expenses, find a way to make a little extra money on the side, put that all into your savings, and then you'll be able to change your career, possibly take a pay cut for the next 5 years before you start building up your pay again. Be prepared. The simplest way to be prepared, update your resume. My God, update your resume. There's so many people that haven't updated their resume since they got their last job. Well, what did you learn in this job? Every time you learn something new at your current job, add a bullet point onto your resume. I don't care if it becomes 3 pages of skills on your current job, on your resume. I don't care. Just put it in there. Because once you decide you're going to start applying for other jobs, you take your current resume with all them stupid bullet points and you throw that into ChatGPT or some other AI you want to use and ask it to shorten it down or, make it more effective, whatever. Learn the prompt on how to do that. Simplify your resume. There could be multiple lines that could be added together and make sense, right? Don't be scared. Just update that resume. Just throw in a new thing. If it is experience in a job title and company, and then all these bullet points, you want your experience to be there. I don't care what you're, because there's such a misconception with job titles. I did this job. Everybody has, a thought. Oh, this is what that person was doing with that job title. There could have been all kinds of work you were assigned that normally isn't part of that job title. Right? You don't want to, there could be stuff, half the work you're doing could be for a position that was one level higher, right? But they just kept throwing work at you, but they're not giving you a raise or a promotion or anything, right? So make sure you write that stuff down. That is so important. Update your resume. That's the simplest thing. Yeah. I'm going to leave it at that today. If you need to talk to me about your resume or your job search and you're looking for some one-on-one time with me, use this QR code on the screen right now. This goes to my calendar link and you can book a meeting with me. Talking HR, Indigenous Relations, or networking, or career advice. This is a free 30-minute meeting. If we got to do more work, then I'll charge you for it and make lots of money and become filthy rich. But hopefully you get a better job too. If you learned anything today or got any sort of value out of this today, use this QR code and give me a Google 5-star review. Google reviews is life. If you're gonna give me a bad review, don't do it. If you're gonna give me a good review and say, yeah, I learned some great stuff. If you learn just one thing, that's worth a 5-star review, in my opinion. Okay. If you want to support me, please go to my TeePublic store, my creative side. I make some graphic designs. This is my angry HR guy. This is the QR code to get you to my store. All my designs are on t-shirts, coffee mugs, stickers, magnets, hats, right? You can see all my crazy HR designs, funny designs. There's a few funny things out there. If you want to support me, go there, do that right now, buy a t-shirt. And what else? Oh, if you want me to review your resume, I have a Fiverr gig right here, $7.24 Canadian. If you were to come to me directly and you know me, I would charge you $25 for this service. So you can do it through Fiverr for only $7.24. Basically, you send me your resume through Fiverr, and I review it, and I give you all the tips on how I think you should improve it. And then you go improve your resume. All right? Or you can do it for free and just use ChatGPT to do it for you. But this is a human eye looking at this. Anyway, I'm going to say good day. I've been online for 1 hour and 37 minutes. Thank you for watching the whole show if you got this far. If you didn't get this far, screw you. No, just kidding. If you want to be on the show, let me know. Message me somehow, and we can chat. We can talk about your small business, and you can get some free advertising, or we could use you as a guinea pig next week to do your resume, whatever you might be feeling brave about. So, thank you everybody for coming to my IanTheHRPro live podcast.